Alright guys, hope you're all doing well, hope you're all keeping safe. Well, we're all still sitting here waiting on some news about the year 3 content in development at Massive. Yesterday, Johan actually responded to a tweet from Rogue Gold asking when we might expect some news or the next state of the game, saying, quote, "We will have more to say soon. I know you're clingering." I'm not sure that's actually a word, I think he means clinging for news, and we're super eager to tell you more. Just wait a bit longer. End quote. So I'm going to guess we're going to hear some before the end of this month. Fingers crossed. Today, however, I wanted to discuss a poll I put out last week about the type of content you want from year 3, and the main reason why is because, just like the level 50 poll, the results actually surprised me, and I think it speaks volumes about the community playing right now. If you enjoy this one, drop a like down below and subscribe to stay up to date with all the videos. And let's get into it. I don't think there's any real doubt that when the Division 2 launched and we all made it to the end game, the majority of the community were asking where all the game modes had gone, the modes that were so very popular from the Division, and why they had been removed. Now, in light of those questions, the devs came out to say they wanted something different for the Division 2. They had a new direction. Instead of the game modes, they wanted a living open world, for example, missions that could be repurposed, for example, and much more. And if you enjoyed the game mode stuff, then you could always just go back and play those on the Division, like Survival or Resistance. What the devs failed to understand is the Division was at its best towards the end, when all the game modes were there, and most of them required you to play with other people. Something that has become more and more difficult, as naturally everyone transitioned to the Division 2, the new game. Now, last year, the devs obviously acknowledged the lack of game modes and replayable content in the Division 2, and they introduced the Summit, which I think for the most part didn't really satisfy the replayable game mode itch within the community. Well, it didn't for me anyway. So why am I saying this? Well, no one knows what is coming with year 3 yet, but I think it's safe to assume we are going to get some kind of new content worth buying. I don't think we're just going to get some new seasons, although I do think we are getting more seasons, definitely. Because I cannot see how Ubisoft would think this would give them a good return on investment, unless they are that much out of touch with the community. I do think we will get content worth the development time to make, otherwise it will be a waste of money. And you know that's not something that the devs want, that's not something that Ubisoft want. So I just don't think that's going to happen. Now, with that context in mind, the poll I put out asked you guys, if you had to choose one, what content would you want out of year 3? And the options were game modes, new raid, new story missions and map, more seasons, and then other. Now, I've left it a week just so I can give the poll time to mature. And as of me making this video, we have 4.7k votes on that poll. So thank you very much to every single person for interacting with that. You guys have been smashing it on the poll, and you guys have been filling those out, leaving comments and all that sort of stuff. Really appreciate it. And as you can see, the result was overwhelmingly favourable towards new story missions and map at 61%, with game modes coming second at only 25%. Now, this is a huge surprise, I have to admit. And I do think there's a couple of reasons why the majority picked new story missions and the map over the other options. Number one, I think we all want more story. We all want more missions, and we all want a new location. One of my favourite parts of the game is just roaming the open world, going from control point to control point, because each encounter almost feels different to the last, and you are given the freedom to attack each control point the way you want to. Unlike missions, which are fairly scripted and you get to know the spawns and etc, etc, these are more dynamic, which is why whenever I'm pulling out footage, you guys will see that it's always control points that I'm running to in my footage for all my videos. On top of this, you are frequently ambushed by patrols and other stuff in the game. Plus, on completion, it's quite common to have a rogue encounter as well, especially on heroic difficulty, which just adds to that. It adds more spice to that particular activity. This, for me, is my favourite part of playing the game, and probably the strongest part of the game as well. So having a new location with new control points and new encounters is something I absolutely want. The story of the hunters has to be explored as well, surely. So if they are going to give us more story, This is what I think the devs will do, and this is what I think people want as well, which is why I think people clicked on story. We all want to know about the hunters, probably over everything else. I probably want to know more about the hunters than I do want game modes, if I'm being honest. So that's why I think people click that one. Number two, I think the community dynamic has changed a lot. Now, with the release of the summit, I think a lot of people were disappointed in what they were expecting to be a replayable game mode worth replaying. Now, I've done detailed videos before about why I personally don't like the summit, from the aesthetics to the rewards, and I expect a lot of people felt the same way. Now, whilst it has improved a little since it launched with commendations and other things, it's quite possible this was the straw that broke the camel's back, and the community who are left are those who'd much prefer to have story and missions over game modes. Number three, it's very possible that because my poll only allowed you to pick one, the obvious choice was the story and missions, because I think that's what most people expect above anything else. It's not that people would prefer this over game modes, it's that this is the bare minimum people want, and actually people want game modes over anything else. I, for one, couldn't imagine the devs introducing new content that does not include some sort of expansion on the story over one new game mode, for example. On reflection then, whilst I'm still surprised with the results because I was expecting game modes to far surpass anything else, I can kind of see why the majority of people selected new story, missions, and a new location. With that said, if the devs want to sell the next piece of content, I think they have to give us both. I think having one without the other, it just won't be enough. Ultimately, I think we all want as much as humanly possible added with Year 3. New story, missions, new location, game modes like Survival 2.0, PvP game modes and balancing new Dark Zone, and as much as they can possibly do is what we all want, right? And we all want it to be fixed, and we all want it we all want stuff to do all of the time, right? That's what we all want. What will Massive do? Well, whatever it is, I think that Ubisoft will want them to make money. They're working on Avatar and Star Wars. It's going to cost them a lot of money, so they're going to want to make money in the background. And the only way that I can see this happening is with an expansion, focusing on the hunters, in a new location, or perhaps the old Division map returning, along with replayable game modes and seasons. That's what I think is coming, guys. I think that's what we're going to be getting for Year 3, which is why they're not talking about it, because I suspect we're going to hear more about it at E3. I want to thank you all for taking part in the poll again, guys, because I really do appreciate it. The interactions on those polls are great, and also it gives you a good insight as to what the community are thinking. You might be looking at it going, well, 4.7k people, that's not a lot compared to how many people probably play the game, and that might be true if it was a bigger game like Warzone or Destiny, perhaps, but you know, the crowd for this game isn't huge anymore, and so I think this actually represents a good chunk of the player base, and it kind of tells you where we're all at. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Until the next one, Epic out.